My fiancé declared, "We'll have an open relationship or there's no wedding." I said, "Sounds fair." The next weekend, I spent time with a group of women from his circle. When he saw the photos, his panic calls begged me to stop. But by then, I had already called off the wedding myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Savannah Claire Monroe. I'm 35. And I used to believe the most dangerous moments in a relationship were the loud ones. The screaming, the slammed doors, the arguments where people finally say the ugly things they have been hiding. But I was wrong. The most dangerous moments are quiet. They happen when someone looks you in the eye and calmly tells you they have already changed the rules of your life. Logan and I had been together for almost 4 years. By then, our relationship did not feel fragile. It felt built. We had routines, shared bills, Sunday grocery runs, families who already treated us like a married couple, and a wedding that was no longer just an idea. The venue was booked. My dress had been fitted. His mother had already cried over the seating chart twice. Everything about our future felt settled enough that I had stopped questioning it. That was why, when Logan brought it up, it did not feel like a conversation starting. It felt like I was being informed of a decision that had already been made without me. We were in our apartment after dinner. Nothing dramatic, no storm outside, no emotional setup. He stood by the kitchen island, scrolling his phone like he was about to mention a change in catering or honeymoon dates. Then he said, "I've been thinking." I looked up. That sentence used to make me soften. With Logan, it usually meant work pressure, family stress, or wedding details. But that night, his voice was too calm. "What about?" I asked. He put his phone down carefully. "Our relationship," he said, "and what marriage should actually look like." My hand paused over the mug I was drying. Something in my body understood before my mind did. He said he wanted us to have an open relationship. Not temporarily. Not as something to discuss. Not as some fear he was bringing to me because he trusted me. He said it like a condition. I stared at him, waiting for the part where he softened it, waiting for the nervous laugh, waiting for him to say he had phrased it badly. But he kept going. He said it could make us stronger. He said people were too possessive. He said love did not have to mean limitation. Then he looked directly at me and added, "And if you're not okay with that, then maybe there shouldn't be a wedding." That was the moment something inside me went cold. Not broken, just suddenly cold, like my heart had stepped back before the rest of me knew how to move. He had not said, "Can we talk about this?" He had not said, "I'm confused." He had said open relationship or no wedding, which meant he had already placed our future on the table like a bargaining chip. For a few seconds, I said nothing. Logan watched me closely. I could see he was prepared for tears, anger, maybe a desperate speech about how much I loved him. He expected resistance. He expected emotion. He expected me to fight for the version of us he had just threatened to take away. Instead, I set the mug down. Then I said, "Sounds fair." His face changed, only slightly, but I saw it, a small flicker of confusion, like I had skipped the part where I was supposed to beg. "Really?" he asked. I nodded. "If that's what you want," I said. He studied me for another moment, trying to decide whether I was calm or pretending to be. Then he started explaining again, faster this time, as if my lack of reaction had made him uncomfortable. Boundaries, emotional safety, honesty. Nothing between us had to change, but everything had already changed. Not because he wanted something different. People change. Fear changes people before marriage. But he had not brought me fear. He had brought me a rule, and he had attached punishment to it. That night, I did not argue. I did not ask if there was already someone else. I did not ask how long he had been thinking about it. I did not ask whether he had imagined another woman while I was choosing flowers for our wedding. Because deep down I already knew the answer that mattered. He had imagined a future where I stayed loyal enough to be his wife, but flexible enough to let him feel free. And somehow in that version, he had forgotten I was also a person. A woman. A choice maker. Not a fixture waiting in the background of his life. Later, when he went to bed, he kissed my forehead like everything had gone well. Like we had just had a mature conversation. Like he had won without needing to raise his voice. I lay beside him in the dark, listening to his breathing slow, and for the first time in almost 4 years, I looked at the man I was supposed to marry and felt distance instead of devotion. Not hatred. Distance, the kind you do not announce. The kind a person only notices after they reach for you and realize you are no longer standing where they left you. By morning, Logan acted normal. Coffee, work shirt, a casual comment about the venue payment deadline. He even kissed my cheek before leaving and said, "I'm glad we can be honest with each other." I smiled. But after the door closed behind him, I stood in the kitchen for a long time. Then I opened my laptop. Not to cancel anything yet, just to look. Venue contract, vendor deposits, guest list, shared calendar. Every piece of the wedding was still there, neat and organized, waiting for a future that suddenly felt like it belonged to another woman. A version of me who had not heard him make love conditional. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Logan thought he had changed the terms of our relationship. He thought I was deciding whether to accept them. But the moment he made the wedding conditional, he gave me permission to see the whole thing clearly. And once I saw it, I could not unsee it. For the next few days, Logan acted like our relationship had evolved into something healthier, more modern, more honest. That was the word he kept using. Honest. As if betrayal became harmless when spoken calmly enough. I watched him without letting him notice. Not suspiciously, not like a detective, more like someone rereading a conversation after finally understanding its real meaning. And once I paid attention differently, I noticed things I should have seen earlier. The confidence in him. Not nervousness, not fear of losing me. Confidence. Like he believed I would eventually adapt because loving him meant accommodating him. One night, while we were eating dinner, he brought up a podcast about rethinking monogamy. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it sounded rehearsed. He leaned back and said, "People trap themselves with expectations they never question." I took a sip of water. "Do you believe that?" "Yes," he said immediately. "I think people can love each other without controlling each other." There it was. Every explanation framed loyalty like oppression. Like commitment was a cage he deserved to escape. "What about marriage?" I asked quietly. He shrugged. "Marriage should evolve too." I nodded like I was considering it, but inside something kept pulling farther away. Logan was talking about freedom like he had discovered something enlightened. What he really wanted was comfort without responsibility. He wanted the safety of commitment while keeping the feeling of freedom. And somehow he truly believed those things could coexist forever without consequences. A few nights later, we had dinner with friends. At one point, someone joked about bachelor parties and final freedom. Logan smirked. "Maybe marriage doesn't have to mean giving up freedom anymore." A couple people laughed. Someone asked what he meant. He glanced at me first. That glance mattered. It was not uncertainty. It was testing. Seeing how far he could publicly stretch this new version of us without resistance. I smiled politely. "Apparently we're very progressive now," I said. The table laughed again, but Logan's expression flickered, because he could not tell whether I was joking or agreeing, and that uncertainty was starting to scare him. Later that night, he wrapped his arms around my waist while I stood at the sink. "You've been really calm about all this," he said. I looked at his reflection in the window. "What did you expect?" "I don't know," he admitted. "I thought maybe you'd need more time." "I understand what you want." He kissed my shoulder. "That means a lot." Number. What it meant was that I had stopped trying to protect the version of him I used to believe in. The calmer I became, the more unsettled he seemed. At first, he had expected conflict. Now my composure was making him nervous. Because anger still implies attachment. But calm distance? That terrifies people, especially when they realize they no longer know what you are thinking. The following Friday, Logan mentioned he was going out with coworkers after work. The way he said it was careful, like he was waiting for me to react. I didn't. "What time will you be home?" I asked. He blinked, almost disappointed. "Not sure." "Okay." That was it. No interrogation, no emotional tension. And somehow, my lack of resistance changed the entire room. After the door closed, I sat alone in the apartment and admitted something to myself. I was no longer trying to save the relationship. I was studying it. Saving requires hope. Studying requires acceptance. That weekend, I spent time alone. I walked through bookstores, sat at a cafe without checking my phone, and went to dinner with my friend Elise. Halfway through dinner, she looked at me carefully. "Are you okay?" I could have lied. But something about the exhaustion in my chest made honesty easier. "He wants an open relationship," I said. Elise froze. "What?" I explained everything quietly. The condition. The wedding ultimatum. The way he framed it like maturity instead of manipulation. By the time I finished, she leaned back in disbelief. "And you're still marrying him?" That question stayed between us longer than anything else. Because up until that moment, I had still been avoiding the answer myself. "I don't know," I admitted. Elise's voice softened. "Savvy. People only make ultimatums when they think they already know your answer." That sentence followed me home. Because she was right. Logan had not risked our relationship by demanding this. He had assumed I would bend before he lost anything important. When I got home that night, Logan was asleep on the couch with the television still on. His phone lit up beside him. A message preview appeared briefly across the screen. Unknown number. Had fun talking tonight. I stared at it for 3 seconds. Maybe less. Then I looked away. Not because it didn't hurt, because the hurt no longer surprised me. That was what scared me most. The next morning, Logan acted completely normal. Coffee, music playing softly, a quick kiss against my temple. At one point, he smiled and said, "I think this is actually bringing us closer." I looked at him carefully, and for the first time, I truly saw the gap between us. He thought honesty meant saying whatever benefited him out loud. I thought honesty meant understanding what your choices cost someone else. That afternoon, while Logan showered, I sat at the kitchen island with my laptop open again. Venue contract, guest deposits, vendor cancellation policies. My cursor hovered over the contact information for nearly a full minute. My hand was steady, but my chest ached, because I was not just looking at paperwork. I was looking at the future version of myself I had been trying to become. A wife, a partner, a woman who believed she had been chosen. Then I closed the laptop. Not yet, but soon. Because deep down, I already knew something Logan didn't. The relationship he thought he had successfully redefined was already ending. He just hadn't realized I was the one deciding how. The following weekend, Logan asked what my plans were. Not casually. He stood by the bedroom mirror, fixing his collar, watching me through the reflection. "What are you doing tonight?" I zipped my dress slowly. "Going out." His hands paused. "With Elise?" "Maybe." He turned. "Maybe." I looked at him. "With some people." That was the first crack in his confidence. Before, he had spoken about openness like it was a philosophy. But the moment I moved, like I had the same freedom, his body reacted before his mouth did. "Who are these people?" he asked. I picked up my earrings. "Friends." "Friends I know?" I smiled faintly. "Some of them." He didn't like that. But if he questioned me too hard, he would expose that his open relationship had limits he had never said out loud. So he forced a shrug. "Just be safe." "I will." I walked out before he could turn concern into control. That night, I met Elise at a rooftop bar downtown. The city was bright beneath us, all glass, headlights, and evening air. Music pulsed softly. People leaned over small tables, laughing like life had not shifted under my feet. For the first time in weeks, I was not sitting across from Logan trying to decode his intentions. I was just there, breathing, listening, existing without being managed. Elise had invited a few friends from her circle. Some knew Logan casually through old friends, and one had once worked with him on a charity event. That part mattered later. At first, I did not think about it much. I was not there to punish him. I was simply tired of shrinking myself around a decision he had made without me. A woman named Nora sat beside me and said, "I almost didn't recognize you. Last time I saw you, you were with Logan at that engagement dinner." I smiled. "That feels like a long time ago." "It was 2 months ago." "I know." She studied my face. "Everything okay?" I looked out over the rooftop lights. "Everything is becoming clearer than I wanted it to be." She didn't push. That was what made the night feel different. No one demanded that I explain my mood. No one turned my silence into a problem. No one told me what I should accept in order to be loving. We talked, we laughed. Nora took a photo of all of us near the railing. Then another. Then one of me, smiling with Elisa's arm around my shoulder. Nothing dramatic. Nothing intimate. Nothing that should have mattered. But I knew how photos worked. A single frame could become whatever the guilty person needed it to become. The next day, I had brunch with another group. Again, nothing secret. Just conversation, sunlight through restaurant windows, and the strange peacefulness of not checking my phone every 10 minutes. By Sunday afternoon, a few photos had been posted online. The first call from Logan came 20 minutes after Elise tagged me. I let it ring. Then came the second. Then a message. "Call me." Then another. "Savannah, what is this?" Then a third. "Are you seriously doing this?" I stared at the screen while sitting in my car outside the restaurant. For a moment, my chest tightened. Not with guilt, with recognition. Because the calm, enlightened man who had explained openness like moral evolution was now calling me like I had betrayed him. When I finally answered, I didn't speak first. His voice came through tight and low. "What is that?" "What is what?" "Don't do that," he snapped. "The photos." "They're just photos." "With them?" "Yes." He went silent. And in that silence, I heard the exact moment his theory collided with reality. "I didn't think you'd actually do that," he said. There it was. The truth. He wanted freedom until freedom stopped belonging only to him. I leaned back against the seat. "Do what, Logan?" "Go out like that." "Like what?" "With women I know." "You said open." "That's not what I meant." The words came too quickly, like he had been holding them back since the first photo appeared. I kept my voice calm. "Then what did you mean?" "I meant we would talk through things. Set boundaries. Be respectful." "You gave me the boundary," I said. "Open relationship or no wedding." That was different. How? Because I was being honest with you. And I'm being honest with you now. He had no answer. For several seconds, all I heard was his breathing. Then his tone shifted. Less angry. More anxious. Can you just come home? I have plans. With who? I looked at the phone. Logan. What? You don't get to ask that like you still own the answer. He went quiet again. This time, the silence felt different. He was processing the fact that I had said it without shaking. I don't like this, he said finally. I know. That's it? What else do you want me to say? I want you to stop. I looked down at my engagement ring. The diamond caught the sunlight beautifully. For a second, I remembered choosing it with him. His hand over mine, his voice soft in the jewelry store, the way he said, I want you to look at this and know I chose you. Now I wondered when that had stopped being true. You wanted this, I said. No, he said quickly. I wanted honesty. No, Logan, you wanted permission. He stopped breathing for half a second. Then he said my name in a lower voice. Savannah. But I had already heard enough. I'll talk to you later. Don't hang up. I ended the call. My hands were steady, but my throat burned. Because even when the decision is right, it still hurts. It hurts to realize someone did not fear losing you until you stopped acting lost without them. That evening, I went to dinner. Not a romantic date the way Logan imagined. But it did not matter. He had already decided what he wanted to believe. By the time I got home, there were 8 missed calls, 5 messages, and 1 voicemail. His final text was simple. We need to reset this before it goes too far. I read it twice. Then I placed my phone face down on the kitchen counter. He thought I was negotiating. I was already grieving. By Monday morning, Logan was pretending to be calm again. That alone told me he was scared. When I walked downstairs, he was already in the kitchen making coffee. Music played softly from his phone like the apartment was still peaceful, still stable, still ours. He looked up too quickly. Morning. Morning. He handed me a mug like this was normal. I accepted it. That seemed to confuse him more than anger would have. You got home late, he said carefully. I told you I had plans. I know. The silence stretched. I could feel him waiting for me to reassure him. But I didn't. Finally, he leaned against the counter. I think we need to clarify some things. I took a sip of coffee. What things? This situation. You mean the arrangement you asked for? His jaw tightened. When I brought that up, I didn't picture this. The photos. Me smiling. Me not falling apart. That was what this meant. You were very clear, I said. I was trying to be honest. And now? That's not fair. I looked at him quietly. Not fair. Interesting choice of words from the man who had attached our wedding to compliance. He stepped closer. Savvy, come on, you know what I meant. No, I said softly. I know what you said. That stopped him. He rubbed his hand across his mouth. I thought we'd ease into it. We? Yes. Logan, you told me either I accepted it or there was no wedding. His face hardened. You're twisting this. No, I'm repeating it. He turned away, exhaling sharply, like I had become difficult for remembering exactly what happened. For the next few days, the atmosphere between us changed completely. Not explosively, quietly. And quiet tension is worse because it gives you nowhere to put the pain. Logan started checking where I was more often. What time are you home? Who are you out with? Are you going back out this weekend? Each question sounded casual, but underneath it was fear. Meanwhile, he had stopped mentioning his own plans entirely. The man who wanted freedom suddenly became uncomfortable with transparency once he realized I no longer revolved around him emotionally. Wednesday night, he finally cracked. We were eating dinner in near silence when he put his fork down harder than necessary. I don't like the way this feels. What does it feel like? Like we're strangers. The irony almost took my breath away. Because strangers were exactly what he had started turning us into the moment he treated commitment like a negotiable inconvenience. You changed the relationship, I said. I was trying to evolve it. No, you were trying to keep security while removing accountability. His eyes narrowed. That's not true. Then why are you panicking now? His expression changed. Not anger first. Exposure. He stood abruptly and walked toward the living room. This isn't what I wanted. Then what did you want? He turned around. I wanted honesty. No, you wanted freedom without consequence. That's not fair. There's that word again. His voice rose. You're acting like I cheated on you. I stared at him. Didn't you? The room went still. Not because he admitted it. Because he couldn't answer immediately. That hesitation said enough. It wasn't like that, he said. Which meant there was someone. Maybe emotional, maybe physical, maybe not official. But enough that he had already crossed lines in his mind long before speaking to me. I sat slowly on the edge of the couch. Strangely, it hurt less than I expected. Because by then, I was no longer grieving the relationship. I was grieving the illusion that it had ever been as safe as I believed. Logan paced once across the room. I thought you'd fight for us. I looked up at him carefully. You thought loving you meant accepting whatever version of love benefited you most. His face changed. Guilt finally appeared beneath the frustration. He sat across from me and lowered his voice. I don't want to lose you. There it was. The sentence he should have been afraid to say before giving me an ultimatum. I folded my hands together to stop them from shaking. Then why did you risk me so easily? He opened his mouth. Closed it. I didn't think... I know. That was the truth underneath everything. He didn't think about me. Not really. He thought I loved him enough to stay no matter what. And maybe once I did. A long silence settled between us. Then he said quietly, "Can we stop this now?" Not fix this. Not understand this. Stop this. Like the damage only became real once it affected him too. I looked at him for several seconds. Logan, the wedding didn't end when I canceled it. It ended the moment you made love conditional. His eyes dropped. And now? He asked. Now I'm just catching up to what my heart already understood. He looked genuinely shaken. Because until that moment, part of him still believed this was temporary. But comfort and trust are not the same thing. And once trust breaks quietly, people often realize too late that there was never one dramatic moment to repair. Just distance growing invisibly until one person finally notices they are standing alone. That night, Logan slept facing away from me. For the first time in years, he did not reach for my hand in the dark. And sometime around 2 a.m, I woke up and saw the faint light of his phone screen reflecting across the room. He was awake, staring at the ceiling, probably trying to understand how quickly certainty had turned into fear. But I already understood something he still didn't. The relationship was no longer balancing on whether we could save it. It was balancing on whether I still wanted to. And deep down, I already knew the answer. The next morning, Logan tried harder. That was how I knew he finally understood the situation was real. He made breakfast before I came downstairs. My favorite coffee order waited beside my chair. He kissed my forehead gently like he used to at the beginning of our relationship. The version of him I once loved had suddenly returned. Or at least the performance of him had. And that was the saddest part. Because if he had fought this hard before giving me an ultimatum, maybe we would not have been standing there at all. You slept okay? He asked. Fine. You seem distant. I almost laughed at the understatement. Instead, I sat down quietly. I've been thinking, he said. That sentence again. Except this time there was no confidence behind it. Only damage control. I don't think we should see other people anymore. I looked up. No? No. He leaned forward quickly. I made a mistake. For weeks, he had defended the idea like philosophy. Now suddenly it was a mistake. What changed? I asked. His eyes flickered toward the truth. You know what changed. Yes, I did. The idea stopped feeling exciting once he pictured me belonging emotionally somewhere else. I thought I could handle it, he said. But you can't. No. That was probably the most honest answer he had given me since this began. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt tired. Logan only understood the value of certainty once he felt himself losing access to it. He reached across the table. Savi, I love you. I looked at his hand without touching it. You loved me enough to gamble me. His expression tightened. That's not fair. You keep saying that. Because you're acting like I wanted to hurt you. I finally met his eyes. Intentions don't erase outcomes. He leaned back slowly, defeated for the first time. Then came the sentence he believed would fix everything. Let's just go back to normal. Go back. Like trust was furniture you could move into place once the argument ended. Like I could unknow what I had learned about him. Like I could forget how quickly he risked our future because he assumed I would stay. I stood up quietly. I have work. Savvy. I paused. We're okay, right? The fear in his voice was finally real. Not fear of conflict. Fear of consequence. I don't know, I answered. That answer haunted him for the rest of the day. I could feel it in every message. Are we talking tonight? Please don't shut me out. I miss you. I love you. At one point, he sent a photo from early in our relationship. The two of us at the beach, smiling into the wind like we had not yet become strangers wearing familiar faces. 3 years ago, that picture would have destroyed me. Now it just made me sad. Because memories stop feeling safe once you realize they belong to a version of someone who no longer exists. That afternoon, while Logan was at work, I sat alone in the apartment again with my laptop open. The venue contract stared back at me. Final payment due next week. Guest confirmations nearly complete. Floral arrangements finalized. Everything was still moving toward a wedding that no longer made emotional sense. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Logan. I'll do anything to fix this. I closed my eyes. Anything. except protect the relationship before risking it. That was the part he still did not understand. You cannot break trust voluntarily and then act shocked when repair becomes difficult. Something inside me settled completely. Not anger. Finality. I picked up my phone and called the venue. A cheerful coordinator answered immediately. Good afternoon. Monroe Wedding Planning. How can I help you? For half a second, I almost couldn't speak, because hearing it called the Monroe Wedding made the whole thing feel painfully real. My hand trembled once. My voice did not. I need to cancel the wedding. Silence. Oh, she said gently. Are you sure? I looked around the apartment, at our framed engagement photos, at the couch we picked together, at the future I had spent years believing in. Yes, I said quietly. I'm sure. The next hour passed in practical pieces. Venue, caterer, florist, photographer. Each call felt strangely calm. No tears, no breakdown. Just the slow, administrative dismantling of a life I no longer trusted. By the end of it, deposits were gone, reservations canceled, guest arrangements frozen. The wedding disappeared before Logan even realized it was happening. That evening, he came home carrying flowers. White roses. My favorite. The sight almost broke my heart. Not because it fixed anything. Because it showed he still believed effort mattered more than timing. You weren't answering, he said carefully. I was busy. His eyes moved to my laptop, then to the paperwork beside it, then back to me. His face shifted. What is that? I stood slowly. The wedding is canceled. The flowers slipped in his hand. You what? I canceled everything today. For a second, he looked like language itself had failed him. You actually canceled it? Yes. No, he said quickly, shaking his head. No, Savannah, wait. There's nothing to wait for. He set the flowers down too fast, almost crushing them. We can fix this. You're trying to fix the reaction, I said, not the decision that caused it. That's not true. Then why did it only become a problem when I stopped standing still? That silenced him. His eyes filled with something raw. Not pride anymore. Loss. I love you, he said, voice cracking. I believed him. That was the tragedy. I believed he loved me. But he loved the certainty of me more than the responsibility of protecting what we had. Tears gathered in his eyes. Savvy, please. I looked at him standing there with flowers for a wedding that no longer existed. I would have married you, I said softly. That's the part you still don't understand. His face collapsed. Because deep down, he knew it was true. And realizing you destroyed something real for a fantasy of freedom, that kind of regret arrives too late to save anything. The apartment felt different after that. Not hostile. Emptied out emotionally. Like the relationship had already packed its bags before either of us physically moved. For the first few days after I canceled the wedding, Logan kept trying. Calls, conversations, flowers, long apologies circling the same point. I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly. I never wanted to lose you. And every time he said those things, I believed he meant them. That was what made everything harder. Because love does not always end when someone stops loving you. Sometimes it ends because the way they love you stops feeling safe. One night, about a week after the cancellation, Logan knocked softly on the guest room door. I had started sleeping there after the wedding ended. Not dramatically. I just could not sleep beside someone whose presence no longer calmed me. Can we talk? He asked. I opened the door. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes. Hair messy. Like sleep had stopped working for him too. For a moment, I remembered the man I met 4 years earlier. The man who used to bring me coffee during long work nights. The man who once drove 2 hours in the rain because I mentioned missing him. The man who held my hand at my grandmother's funeral without saying a word because he knew silence was what I needed most. That version of Logan was real. But so was this version. And that was the problem. He sat carefully across from me. I keep replaying everything, he admitted. I stayed quiet. I thought being honest meant we could survive anything. I looked at him for a long moment. Honesty without consideration is just selfishness spoken out loud. His eyes lowered. I never meant to make you feel replaceable. But you did. His throat tightened. I thought because we were strong. We were, I interrupted softly, until you treated commitment like something negotiable. Silence settled between us. Then he asked the question I think had been haunting him. Was there someone else? I almost smiled sadly. Even now, part of him needed the answer to be another person. Something external. Something easier to blame. No, I said. There was just a moment where I realized I deserved to feel chosen too. He closed his eyes. And for the first time, he stopped trying to defend himself. No explanations. No philosophy. Just quiet grief. A few days later, he moved out temporarily to stay with a friend. The morning he packed, the apartment was painfully quiet. No fighting, no dramatic goodbye. Just boxes sliding across hardwood floors and two people avoiding eye contact because looking too long might make everything hurt again. At one point, he stood near the doorway holding the last bag. "I really thought we were forever," he said. I swallowed hard. So did I. That nearly broke both of us. After he left, I sat alone on the living room floor for almost an hour. The silence afterward was overwhelming. Not because the apartment felt empty, because it finally felt honest. Weeks passed. Slowly, life steadied itself again. I rebuilt routines that belonged only to me. Morning walks, dinner with friends, work without constantly checking my phone. For the first time in a long time, peace stopped feeling temporary. And that was when I understood the final truth. Logan thought the relationship ended because I could not accept an open relationship, but that was never the real reason. It ended because he treated love like a negotiation he expected to win. He thought commitment was secure enough to survive disrespect. He thought my loyalty was permanent. And once someone starts believing your love is guaranteed, they stop protecting it carefully. A month later, he reached out again. Not aggressively. Just one message. "I still think about you every day." I stared at it for a while before locking my phone. Because the saddest part was that I thought about him too. Certain people never fully leave your heart. But missing someone and trusting them are not the same thing. Later that evening, Elise came over with takeout. Halfway through dinner, she looked around the apartment and smiled softly. "You seem lighter." I thought about that. At first, losing the wedding felt like failure, like I had destroyed my own future. But eventually, I realized something else. Walking away from the wrong future is not failure. Staying in it would have been. That night, after Elise left, I stood alone by the window, watching the city lights below. Months earlier, I thought my life was ending. Now it finally felt like it belonged to me again. And strangely, I no longer hated Logan. Because sometimes people reveal who they are most clearly the moment they think they are safe enough to stop protecting what they have with you. He did love me. I believe that. But he loved the certainty of me more than the responsibility of protecting us. And once I understood that, the decision became simple. Not easy. Not painless. Just clear. The wedding never happened. The photos eventually disappeared beneath newer posts and newer stories. Friends stopped asking questions. Life kept moving. But every now and then, I still think about the night Logan stood in our kitchen and calmly asked me to redefine love so he could feel freer inside it. I think the reason everything changed after that is because he expected me to fight to keep him. What he never expected was that I would quietly choose myself instead.